You need to allow your body to heal, and you need to accept the fact that you are going to have crazy swelling for months and months and months and months. And all you can do are the things that we're talking about here.
Hey friends, this is the Next Level Glam podcast, and I'm Glam Gal. Thank you for joining me as I discuss all things transformation inside and out with my sisters in Christ. Pull up a chair, it's about to go next level.
Hello, beautiful sis in Christ. How are you doing today? Welcome on in to my little side show here called the Next Level Glam Podcast. I am Glam Gal, your host, and as always, super ecstatic that you press play, spend some time with me today. This week is going to be a little bit more lighthearted as, last week I definitely felt a little bit of what you would call a hangover, kind of sort of trauma dumping, yet sharing about some very personal issues in my life. It was a really, really hard one for me to record, to edit, to get uploaded to you, but I hope whoever it was for blessed you. Today, I want to spend more of a focus going back to the transformation of the body, which has been a huge, focus of mine over the last 7 to 10 years, basically. Over the course of this podcast, I've shared quite a few episodes explaining how I came to have plastic surgery, the research. And more recently, I shared about my first initial round one plastic surgery, like what it entailed. And also I shared who performed my surgery and kind of my experience with that plastic surgery office. Those are all available in my episode list. You can take a peek if you haven't listened or watched any of those. But today I want to talk about the recovery aspect. I mentioned in those episodes, it had to be its own episode because there's a lot that goes into it. This episode is geared more toward the ladies who are either going through or going to have a liposuction experience, specifically a lipo 360, BBL, Brazilian butt lift, as well as touch on a little bit on the breast lift that I had, kind of what the recovery was like and what you can expect, and perhaps some tips to make your recovery a little bit easier. So let's go ahead and dive in because honestly, I love talking about plastic surgery. I never would have thought that this would be such an obsession of mine, but I love it. Even though you're probably going to be thinking by the end of it, who would want to put themselves through such a rigorous season in life on purpose? But as I've kind of explained, the proof is in the pudding as far as like my results and how it's affected my life. You would think that by having as many surgeries as I've had, that they're easy or that, they're a breeze at this point. But the fact of the matter is, each one has had a certain effect on me, and it's certain challenges that would scare most away from wanting to get back on the table. But, good things don't come easy. I feel like that's pretty standard across the board. So the first thing I'd like to say in regards to the recovery process, or maybe just plastic surgery as a whole, is there's this whole misconception that surgery is very simple as far as like you get the procedure and you have a little downtime and then you're back at it. I do believe I've said it a time or two where that's just not the case. Specifically, when we're talking about liposuction, this is the procedure where they insert the cannula and they remove unwanted fat. They're also putting in another fluid, okay? I think it's called like a tumescent fluid. As well as the fact with this surgery, you kind of destroy your lymphatic system. And the lymphatic system is actually extremely important to learn about because, until I went to have plastic surgery, I'm not going to lie, I didn't know very much about it. Basically, the liposuction process is a long-term recovery. As far as enjoying your results, that is a long-term goal. The big thing that comes up with this surgery specifically is a term called, and it's titled as my episode, Swell Hell. Swell Hell is something that continues on in your recovery for many, many, many months. This is something that will boggle your mind as you go about in your recovery. Swelling can make the body look absolutely crazy. Like the initial thing that you want to do as soon as you get off the table is inspect your results. To some extent, you probably should, right? Just to keep your eyes on things to establish a baseline. But if you're going to be somebody who's looking in the mirror every single day, you're going to be on a roller coaster ride like you've never been on before. Even if you're not, and you're still on a roller coaster ride. But when you're trying to gauge your results physically in the mirror every single day after surgery, you're going to probably lose your mind. Now, it's just something that the body itself has to heal. I'm always going to tell you to listen to your doctor's plan of recovery for you. Most doctors who are doing lipo are going to tell you pretty much the same concepts. They might have different opinions as far as like how long you do something or how long to expect such and such, but as a rule, they're going to tell you that swelling is going to be a huge part of your life in a way that you've never even imagined before. There's a whole lifestyle to support that swelling. And also, the other biggest struggle really is if you're having the BBL, is to not sit on your butt for however long your doctor says. Mine required 3 to 4 weeks. A lot of people will say 6 weeks. A lot of people try to avoid sitting on their butt for as long as possible. And there are those who totally challenge that whole scientific process and they sit as soon as they can bear it or as soon as they feel like it. Now, I will say that my first round BBL, I was really prepared with all kinds of research about how to pass the time when you're on your stomach and on your face. It's not easy. Let's just say that. In terms of the BBL, the packing your butt part of the fat doesn't hurt at all. It's a little discomforting. It feels hard at first. I wouldn't say it really hurts in comparison to the lipo, which is the counterpart to the Brazilian butt lift, right? That, especially if you have an aggressive surgeon, is the most painful part of the surgery, especially in my experience. It makes you feel very stiff on the inside, and it feels like a really, really, really bad sunburn, which I mean, I'm fair. I'm Irish. I've had my bouts of encountering some bad burns in my life. This really was one of the biggest things that was hard to deal with when I woke up from surgery. The pain was immense. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sit here and be like, I woke up feeling great. I woke up in a lot of pain. And I don't know if I've shared this either, but my first round, like I said, was in 2020 during the whole pandemic issue. And I wasn't allowed to have my husband come into the hospital with me to check me in. He wasn't allowed to be in the hospital while my surgery was going on. He had to wait outside in the car. And when I woke up from surgery, he was not allowed to be there. I had to stay in recovery for an hour or two. And then they wheeled me off to him picking me up. And I had to arrange the back of the car with like an air mattress essentially so that I could lay on my stomach and have a 3.5 hour ride home so I could recover. And initially, when the drugs kicked in, it was more tolerable once you start taking those pain meds. But when you're in recovery, there is a lot of downtime. Your life basically looks like laying on your stomach with different pillows. So that's like my number one tip right there is body pillows, long pillows, throw pillows, regular pillows, whatever kind of pillows, have them next to you, have them around because you're going to be needing to reposition yourself so many times in order to not be tempted to sit on your butt. I also did research on like different ways to let my butt hang in between furniture so I could like flip over and not be on my stomach all the time. But the whole entire point of having the BBL really is to stay off your hips and your butt as much as possible. And of course, when you're going to the bathroom and things like that, it really can't be avoided. But a lot of people have their own opinions, especially after the recoveries. But I really do feel like respecting that time off of your butt and listening to your doctor's recommendation is going to make you feel better in the long term. Because if something happens in your recovery, let's say that you encounter something where the butt that you've worked on or the hips, something starts getting an inconsistency in it, you're going to feel a lot better knowing that like it's not because you're sitting on your butt and just giving your body that time to heal. I'm not saying it's easy or that it's not tempting, but that was a big hurdle. But it's a really small price to pay when you're willing to have the booty at the end of the rainbow, so to speak. You know what I mean? So that was something that I had to realize very early on about recovery. Massages, not just any massage, but a lymphatic drainage massage, a lymphatic massage from a certified provider, specifically if they have post-op experience is going to be vital for you. I know that my doctor recommended those and basically made it mandatory. That was a huge struggle for me because I live in the sticks and there's not a lot of people around here having surgery or people who are licensed lymphatic massage experts. So I really had to get back in the car and drive like 45 minutes to go and see a masseuse specialist for a certain amount of time. and eventually learned how to do really, really good self massages. And, my husband who is on board, he's gotten really, really great at helping me with that as well. The self massaging to keep the fluids moving because the swelling is really an issue. Swelling is something that you read about as you go into surgery, and your whole life starts to revolve around this concept of swelling. Everybody experiences their results differently. Some people pop off the table and they just look really great, or they show things before crap really hits the fan. In my first round of surgery, I was keeping my eye on things, and then by like week 3, the swelling actually got worse. It's like it ramps up. And I would say it peaked at about 3 months post-op. I remember reaching out to my doctor and being like, this is crazy, that my body looks crazy. And he was like, it's swelling. And he actually made, I think, a video on that because so many people, I'm sure patients of his pop in all the time and they're like, this looks crazy, or this or that or the other thing. And he's like, it's swelling, and it's swelling. And there are some things that we can do to kind of combat it, but you can't avoid the swelling. You can do the massages. You can avoid fried foods and salty, high sodium foods. That it helps tremendously. Staying very hydrated helps with swelling. Not being overactive. Those things can help keep swelling at bay during your recovery, but it's going to be there until your body regulates itself. Most doctors would say by 6 months. I'm more someone who, in my experience, 18 months was a sweet spot for me. It was like it got better. There'd be really more good days than bad days, you know what I mean? But eventually at 18 months, I was like, my body was pretty normal from morning till night. There wasn't a lot of fluctuation there. And then, of course, again, I go and have another surgery and start the process all over again. But the other thing that really has blown up over the last 4 years, specifically with lipo and BBL, is the faja, which is a compression garment. I'm not saying that they weren't used before this, but I would say that within the last handful of years, it is promoted that most people who have lipo, if not all, need to have a compression garment suit. And don't get me wrong, that was like it in 2020. My doctor provided the initial stage 1 suit. And stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 are all about levels of compression. And you have to have very, very low compression because when you have liposuction, your skin and everything, the areas of your body are super sensitive and kind of Play-Doh like, if we're being honest. So you don't want to create dents and things like that with super high compression or scar tissue or a faja burn, which is when your skin is so numb because you're just feeling all of the lipo pain. You can't even feel like a suit that's rubbing against your skin, and it can create like a burn essentially on your skin. There's a lot of things to consider with this. And that's also why plastic surgery is so expensive. I mean, it's not just the procedures, it's not just the travels, it's not just all the things that come with that. It's also the massages. It's the faja suits. They're really expensive. I mean, you can always try to go on Amazon like I did after my first round that didn't fit right. And that was the frustrating part for me, is like I was just ordering so many fajas that were not fitting my body right, because the custom suits were ranging for like $200 to $250. But it got to a point that like when I would put this like SpongeBob basic sized faja on my body would swell like the Michelin tire man. And then when you would take your suit off, you would look crazy. It wouldn't be compressing in the areas that would need to compress. And so you get pretty creative, even when you have a brand new custom suit, which is what I eventually did, which was, I've done that a few times, getting really expensive suits. But even after you wear them, they stretch out and then you need to get them altered. And that costs money. Learn how to like stuff it with pads and stuff. And I think that was a huge thing for me to realize too, is like you think you're going to pop off the table and after a week or two that you're going to start looking cute. And that's just not the case, because you need to be in that faja. And that's the other thing you need to realize, is like, you need to be in that faja for quite a long time. It was like the first 4 weeks I was wearing that faja 24/7, with the exception of taking it off for 1 hour to wash it and to shower. And then I would probably say month 2 and month 3 went down to 12 hours a day. And about 6 to 8 weeks, I also switched to like a higher compression garment, which, I mean, you know what? I was no stranger to girdles and shaperwear and shoving myself in the nylon suit to give some illusion of a silhouette and some control, like some, high tummy control top panties. They were my life for a long time. So I really thought that this would be no big deal. But let me tell you something. I don't know if I didn't have my husband to help me recover. I don't know if I ever would have done it. Like putting on this suit with, they have foams in it to help dispense the compression to really push that fluid out, all of the hooks, and then getting your outfit on for the day. It is a full-time job taking care of your plastic surgery results. Like I knew plastic surgery, the recovery was going to like be a part of my life, but I really was not prepared about the up at dawn for months and months and months and months of taking care of yourself, washing the suit, getting in the suit, being uncomfortable in the suit. Every time you have to go to the bathroom, you have to undo the whole entire thing, foams and all, lipo boards, all of it. I can't say enough that it is an all-consuming thing. It's a thing that if you have friends who aren't going through plastic surgery, like they just can't get it. And people will want you to be like, oh, you had surgery 2 months ago. Let's, go out or let's go swimming or something. And let me tell you something. The minute that you step out of that faja, like you just swell on up to the point where you really, really actually love being in the faja. It makes you feel like secure. And honestly, wearing the faja actually promotes you like not overeating and pretty much being upright and active because it's not the most comfortable thing. Like if you're not a great sleeper in general, wearing a faja and having to sleep on your stomach for a long, long time, it's not for the weak. It's not, but it is worth it. I will tell you that. And it's totally doable. Overall, I will tell you my first round of my lipo and BBL, I didn't have like any complications like at all. That part was a breeze just because I didn't experience anything as far as like my BBL recovery. That doesn't mean that there aren't other complications that can arise. That's why when I was researching my BBL, I was digging real deep to find the potential what if situations aside from the dying part because there are things like I've said infections from like dirty cannulas or whatever. And there's also things like fibrosis, which is like heavy, heavy scarring underneath the skin of all of your tissues from the cannula, people going too hard on that, as well as what they call lipo burn, which is when your surgeon is way too aggressive and the cannula gets too close to the skin and it creates a burn from the inside out. That's something that can happen. Something else that can happen with lipo and BBL is something called a seroma, which is a little pocket of fluid that forms when your body's not exactly expelling all that fluid, right? Like it's supposed to, which is why most people get drains in their with their BBL, meaning that they have like these little bulbs. This, which is what one of the worst parts of the recovery really is dealing with the drains in the sense where you have to drain all this icky fluid as it's pulling fluid from your body, but it prevents seromas as well as compression that prevents seromas. The compression is helping the skin reattach right to itself since a cannula had just gotten in between the two, right? So that seroma can form, and then you have to go and get that drained more times than not. Sometimes the seroma will absolve itself in time, the body will heal itself. Other times, your surgeon might want you to come in to have that drained once or sometimes many times. Sometimes people get a seroma that is so persistent, it becomes like encapsulated basically, where they have to get that removed. I've heard and seen that happen to people. I've seen people get like nodules of infection in the butt where it comes out the skin and then they have like giant pits and stuff in their butt. So these are what we're talking about as far as like the BBL recovery. You want to be well informed about what you're getting yourself into because as you're recovering, you're gonna you're gonna be on the lookout for certain things so you can talk to your surgeon about how you're progressing. You know what I mean? Like obviously a lot of people after surgery they worry about blood clots, they worry about infections, but these other things like seromas and fibrosis and various other little nuances that can pop up that you really want to have a doctor that is going to be there for you to take care of you and also help promote those results and get you to the other side of that. So just consider that in your recovery, as some of these things also do not come until later on in the recovery. Like some people have really great results and they don't keep up with, say, their massages or their compression depression or whatever element they're not really taking care of themselves, and they can develop, a fibrosis. Though a lot of this stuff really does come down to the surgeon and the patient and somewhere in the mix. That's why it's really great that you're a good patient and that you hired a really great surgeon so that you can have as smooth a path as possible. Not perfect, but a lot more smooth than if you had, not listened to your surgeon, or if picked a surgeon who was just kind of not the top of his field. And I'm sharing this because I want you to have the best results. I want you to have a great recovery. I want you to learn from some of my mistakes. Like, be sure to have some meals prepped for your family, because you're not going to care. Like, thank God my husband took really good care of me when he was, obviously when he had to go back to work, it was a little bit more difficult, but like, cooked my meals and did the laundry. And the one thing that I will say we didn't do good enough personally was get the house in order. Life was just chaos. I mean, it wasn't like a total mess, but by the time that I was able to come down those steps and really check in to do any of the things that I used to do, like cleaning and stuff, it was overwhelming. My husband did what he could, but it was just absolute chaos. And there's nothing more horrible than trying to recover from surgery when you're feeling like crap and just feeling like your environment is chaos. So make sure that your house in general looks really good. I made sure that my room, obviously, my bedroom was all set up with, like I said, the pillows and clean sheets. I've gone over that many a time. And also a surgery cart, which has like all kinds of stuff that you're going to need in your recovery. You're going to want some things there at night to make the sleepless nights a little bit better for you. I will also tell you the one key to feeling better faster. Two things for you feeling better faster when you feel like absolute crap, like roadkill, is get up and wash your face anyway. Okay. I know that your outfit's not going to look super cute and batty with you looking like the Michelin tire man, but just getting yourself ready for the day so you don't look how you feel. That's important because a lot of it's mental, right? And the other thing is get up frequently and walk around. It is going to hurt the longer that you sit there and that you're inactive because people are scared to stand up because it hurts when you move. It really does. You feel like a stiff burning board on the inside. But it's better to just get it over with. And when you're awake during the day, every half hour to an hour, try to get up and walk around a little bit. Go to the bathroom, and you should be having to go to the bathroom a lot, especially that first week or two. Like, your output is insane because of all that fluid they pumped into you and stuff. And you want to hydrate more because you have a lot of that anesthesia and those chemicals in your body. And that first round for me, I remember getting a sense of like vertigo. It took about like 30 days for me to feel more regulated as myself, where I felt light and detoxed and I was coming around mentally again. It was really, really rough. And just little goals every single day, read some books, have projects that you want to do that you can, sit and relax, just embrace the downtime. Don't fight it, embrace it, make the most of it, because before you know it, you're going to have to jump back into life and you're not going to have the excuse to put your feet up, and relax. So these are the kind of bittersweet things that I look back about my recovery, my journey so far in that first round, where I was like, if I had known, this is what I would have liked to know. Plastic surgery is really next level self-care. And that's all, folks. As far as like the physical part, I mean, it still hurt and I was still uncomfortable and I had tons of swelling, and it was going to be months and months and months before I could even look at my results to see what that next step was going to be. But the breast lift was probably the more of the challenging healing part, just because it's a combination surgery. And like I've said in the past, when you have a combination surgery, in essence, one or both of the procedures that you have, the results can take a hit because you're not paying attention to everything the way that you should. Like, I was kind of more focused on staying off of my butt and laying on my stomach. And my doctor approved it since I didn't have an augmentation. Like, I didn't have an implant in my boob. So I was allowed to like lay on my stomach, and I made like a little pillow trench basically for my boobs to hang so that they could heal. But I had some, parts that were like slower to heal, and obviously more scarring than the BBL, which is just a few holes that he makes, because the surgeon that you pick, make sure that they only have a couple of insert and exit holes for the cannula. I've seen people have holes like all the way down their body, and that's just so unnecessary. But that whole in terms of healing took longer, but totally doable. I would say the thing that took longer to actually heal with scarring was the breast lift, and the thing that took longest to heal pain-wise and swelling-wise to get my results was the BBL. I do think that in essence, it was a really great combo procedure for me to have because it did make a huge difference. Like I got those babies lifted, and for a while they looked really reduced, but I feel like over time they kind of like settled, and I really, really loved my results with that. But the BBL, it took about 6 months for time to pass before I would stop feeling the pulling inside my skin from the lipo. It's just like one day you wake up and you're like, "Oh wow, the that pain is gone," because it basically becomes part of your life. So as a breakdown, my tips for a BBL recovery: pillows, lots and lots of pillows, stay hydrated, watch your sodium intake and your alcohol intake. Obviously, you're not allowed to drink alcohol for like at least 7 days while your antibiotics are working. And I'm telling you, your body feels weird after you have that first sip of booze or that first French fry. You will feel your body start to swell, especially if you're not in the faja. You need to know that the faja doesn't shape your body. Your doctor, the plastic surgeon, shapes your body. The faja is there to press in on those spots and push the liquid out. And I totally recommend a really great compression garment. So the first one that your doctor should include with your surgery, that's whatever. But when you have to invest in that second stage, go to a really, really great faja brand. And if you want my recommendations on that, I can go into that another time or just make a post on Instagram. But really invest in that faja, one that can be altered and go with you because it is expensive. A couple $100 sounds like a lot for a suit, but honestly, the amount that I spent on crap suits that I had to throw in the trash because they just didn't work, I can't even express. And that's something else is realize that the whole plastic surgery experience isn't done when you cut the check. There's massages, there's fajas, there's you wanting to eat better. You know what I mean? There's that whole component also that I like to talk about when your body is finally in a place for you to start working out again. And again, doctors can clear you as needed, and you need to listen to your own body. I know that my doctor said about, 3 months or so I could start working out, but I waited till about 6 months to really start working out. And I'm such a huge believer in the proponent of nutrition really being the key to maintain or lose weight that I didn't let it get to me too badly that I took a few months off there working out. But once I did, you wouldn't believe the swelling that amps up from your physical activity increasing. So like when people go back to work and they're on their feet a lot, that promotes swelling. And when you work out, it's like you're trying to take your results to the next level and you look worse than what you started out as. And that's what I'm talking about always looking in the mirror to verify how you're doing. You're going to be extremely disappointed more times than not because it's just one of those things you really need to train yourself to trust the process. And that you'll hear that a lot on the plastic surgery journey. We hear that a lot about life in general, but you need to trust the process. If you are wearing a good faja the way that you're supposed to, as long as you're supposed to, if you're eating a more good than bad, if you're pushing hydration, if you're being active, eventually those long-term results are going to show up. You're going to find yourself 12 months, 15 months, even 2 years down the line looking better, better, and better. But that initial impact of surgery, recovery, and those handful of months that follow, there is a lot of ups and downs. So I'm not even just talking about in a physical sense. Emotionally, it is very, very intense. Like you have all the emotions going into surgery. You want it all to be worth it. And then you hit the swelling stage and it makes you like regret basically what you did to yourself. And also, from a real point of view, when you've paid a lot of money for something, we have this thing with instant gratification, and you need to remove that when you go into your plastic surgery because it is again a long, expensive, exhausting process, but it is absolutely worth it. And I mean, to the point where, I'm looking at round 4 here. That should tell you how powerful plastic surgery can be. I just like to keep it real with people because these are the things that really served me well in all of my surgeries was, taking care of myself with like protein, hydration, compression. I see it all the time in surgery groups. So many people will be like, my body looks crazy. I'm 3 weeks post-op. I'm really depressed. And it's like, you need to allow your body to heal and you need to accept the fact that you are going to have crazy swelling for months and months and months and months. And all you can do are the things that we're talking about here. Scheduling your massages, even self-massaging in between, those compression suits, eating healthy, low sodium, stay away from alcohol as much as possible. Don't be overactive. There's a balance of being too active. You know what I mean? These are the things that you can control, and you know what? Say that you come into a situation where something pops up in your results, like a nuance or something, and your doctor says it's swelling and to check back in 6 months. Like, that's pretty much the reality of that point. There's nothing that they can really do for you until your body calms down so they can see how your body healed and how it's like hanging there, basically. You need to give your body the time. You can't rush that recovery, but you can know if you have a great doctor that at 6 months' time, we're going to reevaluate it and go from there because Rome was not built in a day. I don't know a single person who went in for one round of plastic surgery and left and didn't want something tweaked or was completely happy or wanted more. That's just something that comes with the territory. And like you hounding yourself about things that you can't control when it's so hard on the mind and so hard on the body. And it's really actually super hard on your family members too. I know I'm not saying that it's all bad. I'm just saying it is a big challenge if you have like I had a young daughter when I first had surgery. She was about 8 years old when I had my first surgery. And my husband was working, and I will say that it was a big challenge around here for a couple of months at least. I totally woke up from surgery feeling like I got hit by a Mack truck and then like they backed up and like ran over me again. And in one essence, you're like, that's a good sign because that means like your doctor went to work. But you're like, yeah, I'll need like a week. My husband will take like a week off and I'll be up and I'll start doing all the things that I do around the house. No, 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 no. I couldn't have been prepared for the emotional turmoil that was going on. And when my husband went back to work, I didn't feel like I was prepared emotionally to be alone and have to deal with things like putting on the garment, or if you have an accident, being able to like go down the stairs or do laundry or anything. And some people have really, really great pain tolerance, or their doctor just didn't go as hard. Like some people just handle it better. But with all the surgeries I've ever had, I know now what to prepare for. I know what kind of time to budget for and how to get the support that I need during those rough times where you're going through something that a lot of people in your life either don't know about or can't really understand. Finding that network of like-minded people or people who are going through the same things that you are is super important. But again, I'm not going to say that you should be totally absorbed into getting too involved in other people's experiences because it can affect the way that you're looking at your experience. It can make you question your surgeon, your results. It's one of those things you have to keep a fine balance about. But I got my surgery done during the summer. My social calendar was like at an all-time low. I didn't really leave the house unless it was a desperate social engagement, right? Like can't be avoided, or if I had a checkup with the doctor. That was pretty much it. I stayed very low key and then I popped out a few months later and I started, building confidence about the recovery process and just kind of accepting the new way of life that pretty much is still in my life today. All these years later, I'm still dealing with compression. I'm still dealing with learning to look at, sodium levels and how to hydrate myself better and how to push myself for better results working out, even though I'm just under 15 months out from my last surgery. So I can tell that my body is getting more regulated, but I still feel like she combats a little bit if I have something too salty or if I, have some alcohol. It's very possible that my body will kind of bloat or look kind of funky to me in the mirror. And those are just the days where I have to shrug and be like, that's swelling. Liposuction, by the way, is not a weight loss surgery. You might lose a couple of pounds in the exchange, but whatever fluid they're taking out, they're putting back in, and you might lose a few pounds because of the fat they took out eventually. But it was really hard for me to trust that it was swelling and it wasn't me gaining 5 pounds. And I've really had to steer clear of the scale. I steer clear of the mirror when I'm having a bad day. and just accepting it for what it is. I just realized, okay, well, I'm not digging it today. What am I going to do? I'm going to jump in my faja. I'm going to chug that water. I'm going to go for a little walk. I'm going to do a self massage, and I'm going to love myself, and tomorrow will be a better day. And that's pretty much how I feel about the plastic surgery recovery. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. If you have any other questions for me, pop over to Instagram. I'm at the Next Level Glam Podcast. Drop your comments, questions in the DMs, whatever. It always goes down in the DMs, am I right? As you go about your plastic surgery journey, as you go about life, as you go about anything that you do, know that He is there. He is for you, and I'm for you. I am praying for you, and I can't wait to see you here next week for a whole new episode here at the Next Level Glam Podcast. And until then, continue to rest and grow in His grace.